Morning class, you're welcome to another time and also another privilege to consider a further topic on our lesson process. So this morning I will continue with our Python data type, and I've titled this Python data type 2. And on this we're going to be looking at Python list, we're going to be looking at Python tuple, we're going to be looking at Python strings and Python sets and also Python dictionary. And as much as possible, I would want you to pay attention, pay very close attention as we continue and proceed in our lesson today. So in our last class we started off with Python list, and I made us understand that Python list is actually a collection of items enclosed in a square bracket. And I cited a few examples. A list, I think I give a list of this sorts. I said num equals to, just to call back, just to recall what we did, equals to square bracket, let's not forget square bracket, 2, if you can remember, 3, 4, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, and 10. That was what we did last time. I think we considered something like this, and we're able to look at possible ways to actually access items from our list. Or we're able to access items from our list, we're able to change items in our list, we're able to append items in our list. And I told us more especially that you can, if you want to append an item, if you want to add one more item, you can simply say num dot append. The append function is used to kind of add item to a list. Okay, append whatever you want to append. You can append 60. Okay, so one thing I want to say is that if you're appending an item to your list, the append means it's going to add a new item you want to append to the end of the list, and that is what happens. So if I go ahead to print my num, if I print my num, I should have 60 added to my list. It's going to be at the extreme end of my list. So I'll go to my run, I'll run the lists, I'll run the code. Now I have a new list there. You can see my new list, but something noticeable there is that 60 has been added or appended to my new list. So that was what we did last time. So I also want to say that the Python list, in the Python list, we don't only make reference to a list of integers, numbers. You can also have names in your Python list. Okay, you can have names. You can have names like Jude. Okay, you can have names. Maybe you can say Angela. Okay, you can have Angela. You can have Daniel. You can have Daniel in your list. You can have Kenneth in your list. So we have these names in our list. Okay, now every process, like I told us initially, that our list is mutable, and it simply means that you can actually make changes, you can add something, you can change something. Okay, so in this list now, if I want to change Angela, I want to replace another name. Okay, I want to replace Angela with another name. I can just name. Okay, name square bracket. I'm making reference to the index. I told us that for you to reference items, you can use the index, and I earlier explained to us the pattern, the indexing pattern in Python program. and I say start from the first item. This is the first item. Jude is the first item, Angela is the second, third is Daniel, fourth is Kenneth. But when we talk about the index now, Jude is index 0, Angela is index 1, Daniel is index 2, Kenneth is in index 3. So if you remember very well, I said if you're coming from your right to the left as well, you're going to be having negative from -1 you progress. So Kenneth is going to be -1, Daniel -2, Angela -3, Jude -4. That is the order. So now I want to change Angela. I'll simply figure out what index can I use here. If I'm coming from this direction, it's going to be -1, -2, -3, okay? But if I'm coming from this direction, it's going to be 0, 1. Angela will be 1 position. From the right, it's going to be -3 position. Okay, so let me use the -3 position, okay? I want to change the item at the -3 index position with another name. What name? Let's say I want to change the name with Buhari. Okay, so I want to change with Buhari, so I'll just go ahead and print my norm again. Print name, okay? Print name. Okay, so if I run my code, I should expect Angela to be replaced by Buhari, by the name Buhari. So let me run the code and see what happens. Okay, now we have our new list. Obviously, you can see that in our new list here, okay, Angela has been replaced. Now we have Jude, Buhari, Daniel, Kenneth. Okay, so now I can still add another name to my list. Okay, I can add another name to my list. If I want to add a name to my list, I'll just say name dot append. Okay, append in bracket. I'm going to specify the name I want to add. It's going to add that name to the end of the list. Okay, so if I'm doing that now, let me choose the name. Which name am I going to use? Okay, let me say okay, Timothy. Okay, I'll say Timothy. I'm going to use Timothy. So I want Timothy to be added to the end of that list. So I'll just go ahead and print name again. Okay, print name. Right. So if I print the name, I'm going to have Jude, Buhari, Daniel, Kenneth, and then Timothy in the new list. So let me see if that will. Very good. So now we have our new list. So we have Jude, Buhari, Daniel, Kenneth, and what? And Timothy. It means Timothy has been added to our new list. So I'm actually bringing this out here because in the last examples I cited, I think in our list I used only integers. So I don't want us to be confused, or I don't want it to look like we can only use integers in our list. We can also use strings. So we're using here now as strings, and I believe that by now you should be familiar with what a string is. You should be able to tell the difference between strings and integers. So that is just it for our list. And like I said, you can also print a section of the list by using the method we call slicing. Okay, object slicing. All right, that was the method I mentioned the last time, and you can use that method to actually get few names from your list. I call the method object slicing. Okay, object slicing method. Now with this method you can actually you can get the section of your list. You can print a section of your list. Now let me say I want to print Angela and Daniel. Sorry, I want to print, okay, this is the new list here. So I want to print Buhari, Daniel, and Kenneth in that list. All I'm going to do, I know that Jude is 0, Buhari is 1, Daniel is 2, Kenneth is 3, and Timothy is 4. I'm going to take a range between 1 and 4. Okay, I'll say name. I can just say okay, I'll say name. Okay, let me say print in bracket name then square brackets. I'm going to specify the slicing range. Buhari is going to be 1. I'm going to put 1 column 4. Okay, all right. So I'm going to run my code to see what we have in there. So I just ran my code. I told you I wanted to print out Buhari, Daniel, and Kenneth, and now down there we have Buhari, Daniel, and Kenneth. Okay, so you can see that. What did I do? I used the range, and the range I used was range 1 to 4. I'm going to explain this bit by bit so you understand. Okay, I told us that in object slicing, the first thing you need to understand, I have my my brackets, okay, my parentheses out here. Then I have a name. The name is the name of the list, reference to my list name. Okay, now I have another square bracket. The square, I told you that the square brackets is used to specify lists. And in my definition of list, if you remember very well, I said the list is actually a kind of collection of items within a square bracket. So you can see I use a square bracket here, and also the numbers you're seeing there are actually the index reference to the items in that list name. Okay, so I clearly explained to us that in indexing, I have told us that from the beginning of the first item on the list is 0, so we progress from 0. After 0 we have 1, 2, 3. Then I told us that now I needed 3 items. Now from 1, if you count from 1, 1, 2, 3, the next is going to be 4. I included 4. Reason is because in Python program, Python will print from 1 to excluding the last index. Okay, excluding the last index. So Python will exclude 4 to print 1 to 3. I want to believe this is clear enough for everyone, and as much as possible I want to make it clearly understandable. Yes, so that is just the basic thing about this. So you can print a section of your list. Okay, you can also print the entire item on the list by using your for loop. Okay, you can just list, if you want to list all the items in that list, you can say for. Don't worry, we'll come to this. This is a loop, is an iteration function for maybe items in name. I'm making reference to name now. Okay, for items in names. Items in names refers to all the items, but mind you, our list is now, this is no longer the original list because I've made a lot of changes over here. This is the original list: Jude, Buhari, Daniel, Kenneth, and Timothy. I want to print out Jude, Buhari, Daniel, and Kenneth and Timothy in a very arranged format. Okay, for me to do this now, I'm going to make reference using my for loop. This is called for loop. Don't worry, subsequently by the time we get to iterations and loops, we're going to discuss this. Now for items, for all the items in name, okay, when I was talking about keywords or reserved word, I told us we had so many reserved or keywords in Python, and each time you use your keyword, it changes to blue. The color changes to blue. You can see for here is blue, and in is also blue. For items in name, okay, I'll say print items. Okay, print in brackets items. Okay, print items. All right, so let me run the code and see what happens. Good. So now I just run my code. Sorry, let me take this out. Okay, I just run my code now. You can see what happened. A list has been printed out. You can see a list printed out there. Okay, just that way. The first name there is Jude, Buhari, Daniel, Kenneth, Timothy. Okay, the list has been outlined. Let me erase this up so that you can see what's happening there. Okay, now you can see the list here: Jude, Buhari, Daniel, Kenneth, and Timothy have been printed out. Okay, so that's our list. Good. So that's just the basic thing. So, and in your studies, you need to pay attention. You need to study how to understand the working of the list, and also how to make all these changes in your list. That's just it. So I talked about tuple also. Apart from the list, I talked about Python tuple. I'm going to just okay. Apart from my list, I talked about Python tuple. Okay. So in my Python tuple, I also showed. Sorry, let me name this tuple. Tuple.py. Okay, now. Alright, so in my Python tuple, I also explained that tuple is similar to a list. Okay, but the only difference is that the tuple is enclosed by a bracket. Okay, the tuple is enclosed in a bracket. So that's the only difference between the tuple and the list. Then apart from that, also I say that the tuple is not. So I say the Python tuples are immutable. Python tuples are immutable because you cannot actually change them. You cannot change any item in Python tuples. You can't change any item in Python tuples. But the only thing you can do in a tuple is that you can access items in Python tuples. For instance, you have names. Okay, maybe you have name equals to. So this time around, I'm not using a square bracket. That's the difference. Now I'm using I'm going to use parentheses. Then I'll go with any name as well I want. I can say Abraham. Okay. Then I said titles. Then I also have Micah. These are biblical names. Then I have Matthew. I have Matthew. Okay. So now this is my Matthew is not in quotes, so it's not recognized as a string. So I'm gonna put in quotes Matthew. Okay, Matthew. So these are names. Now, in the Python, in the Python lists, you notice very well that we can actually change the items in Python. But in Python tuple, we can't change the items. Okay, we can't change the items. So, for instance, if I say name, okay, name, then I decide to change name reference to the index, maybe Abraham. I want to change Abraham to Luke. Then I said Abraham, the index of Abraham is 0. I'm going to put 0 there. Equals to. Remember, if we want to change an item, this is the format we used. So I want to see, I'll change this to Luke and see if it works. It's not going to work. Okay. So Luke. Okay, Luke, that's Luke. Okay, if I print name, it's going to give me an error. So print name. Okay, print name. It's going to give me an error. I'll just go ahead to run the code and see what happens. I should expect an error there. Very good. So trace back, most recent calls. File, tuple, line 2 in Moodle. Name, Luke. Tuple objects does not support item assignment. So it simply means that you cannot change the items in the Python tuple. Okay? So that's just it. So what we can do with our Python tuple is that we can access the items in Python tuple. Okay? When I mean access, you can print out any of the item in a Python tuple. For instance, if I want to print out titles and Micah, I want to print them out, and I cannot just say print, okay, in brackets name, then I make reference to the this is 0 0 index, then 1 2 3. Really inside my square bracket here, I'm going to put 1 volume 3. I need Titus and Micah. So Titus is 1, Micah is 2, index 2, then Matthew is 3. I included 3, so I told you that In Python, when Python references a slicing object using the object slice operator, the last number, it goes from 1 but not including the last number. Okay, so it's going to go from 1 to 2, and index 1 is the titles, index 2 is Micah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and print this by running my program. If I run the code, I'm going to have titles and Micah printed out. Okay, I'm going to have my titles and Micah printed out. So that's what we can do with our tuple. That's just what we can do with our tuple. And most times tuples are used to write security codes. Okay, security codes that cannot be altered. All right, maybe you're writing a code, you don't want it to be altered, you use the tuples, so it's very, very secure for you, so that somebody doesn't come to make changes to your codes. So once it's written, you can't just come and make changes, but they can access items from your tuple. So that is just it. Right, so the next thing also is the string. We looked at the string, we have briefly looked at the string, but I'm going to say one or two things. Taking my time to go over this because these are the basics and you need to know them. It's very, very important. Python strings are actually set of Unicodes. Okay, set of Unicode items. Okay, characters. Okay, that's Python strings. Now, I told us that. Okay, hash sign. Python strings are set of Unicode characters. Okay, characters. Now, if I say name again equals to, okay, let me use item this time around. Item equals to, strings are always in quotes, so every string I'm writing is going to be in quote. Okay, no, now I'll say name is equals to, okay, like Ibrahim. Okay, Ibrahim. Okay, name is equals to Ibrahim. Right, so that's what I'm having there as an item. So I'll just leave it that way. Now let me also explain that I say this is a set of Unicode. Unicode makes reference to different letters of the item here, all the letters. Okay, now, okay, we talked about the indexing, okay, object index, and I want to also let you know that object index also applies to every single letter, okay, in your string. Okay, in your string, every single letter in your string, it all appears. It also applies to every single, letter in your string. Okay, so I can say item. I can say print. Okay, before I talk about this, we have Ibrahim. Ibrahim is Ibrahim. Okay, the I you're seeing there is actually index 0, B is 1, R is 2, A is 3, H is, you understand, H is 4, and so in the index. And you understand so well as well that if you're coming from the right side to the left, it goes from -1 and downwards. Okay, we progress that way. So it is similar to what we have in the list, and the same thing applies as well. Okay, so I can make reference to any letter of the subject. I can say print. Okay, print in bracket item. Okay, and then I can use an object slice to say print 0. Okay, so I wanted to print Ibra 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 to 4. Okay, to 4. Okay, so I'll just run my code and see what happens. I should have an Ibra printed out. Good. So Ibra has been printed out, and it simply tells you that this code, this is actually Unicode, and codes have been assigned to every single letter in Ibrahim, and Ibrahim is a string. Okay, so the importance of this is that most times you want to analyze certain things in your code. It helps you to actually, find some items or letters within a code. For instance, if I want to print each, okay, if I want to print letter H, I can actually use the Unicode. I can actually make reference to the index to trace my letter H and then print it out. Alright, so that is just it. Okay, so if there is anything, the take home you have here is that you need to understand that English texts are called strings, and each time they are written, they are always written in quotes. If they are not in quotes, you have an error message. Okay, so the only time you don't write them in quotes is when you use them as identifiers or variables. Okay, if they're used as identifiers or variable, like here I have item is not in quotes because it's an identifier. Right, so I just used Ibrahim, but also you can have a list of items. Apart from Ibrahim, you can have so many items there in quotes. You can have names in the list. You can have you can have names in the list. Sorry, that's not in quotes. Right, so that is just so apart from names, you can also have text, anything you want to write within the quotes. You can have anything. Say my name is Mr. Michael. To computer programming. Okay, you can have anything you want to write, but it must all be in quote. And if I ask the system to print that out, I can just say print. Okay, I can just say print item. If I say print item, it's going to give me that. Okay, now if I want to break this into multi-lines, that's what we call multi-lines. Okay, all I need to do, I can just introduce the /n here. Okay, /n. Sorry. Okay. /n. Yeah. Okay. Now. Sorry, that's the backslash. That's the backslash n. Okay, backslash. So if I print, it's going to break this line. Instead of having it straight this way, it's going to break my line. I'm going to have 3 lines: 1, 2, 3, because of the backlash. The backlash I introduced, backslash n. So I'm going to have 3 lines. Okay, so if I print this now, okay, my line will be broken into 3. Good. So that's what we have there. My name is Michael. I am becoming addicted to computer programming. So it breaks your line. But these are the few things you can actually apply. This is called a multi-line string. Okay, multi-line string. Okay, so now also we have what we call a Python set. Okay, Python sets. A Python set is actually an unordered set of items. Okay, for Python sets. So Python sets are unordered set of items. Okay, good. So now we've talked about the list, we've talked about the tuple. Now we're looking at the Python set. Okay, I said Python set is actually an unordered set of items. Okay, so now I'm going to use the same illustration. Name equals to, this time around I'm using a curly bracket. Okay, curly bracket for my Python set. Okay, so I'm going to have this. Okay, I'm going to have 4, 2, 6, 8. Okay, this. Okay, so that's just it. Okay, it's not ordered. If I go ahead and say print, okay, let me add something here. I want to add it to again. I'm going to add it to here. Then I'll just go ahead and say print name. I'm adding it to because I want to bring out something there. Print name. Then I'll run my code. Okay, all right. So now my lists have been reprinted. Okay, now initially it was not organized, but now it has been reprinted. But something, you can notice something there. You know, I have 2. The 2 here is the only duplicate item in that item set, but then in the result you notice something there. Okay, it didn't repeat the 2, it didn't duplicate the 2, just picked one of the 2 and then printed the items. Okay, now the Python set is actually similar to your set theory in mathematics. Okay, and what we can do in the Python set is that we can also apply all the, all the, what I call it, okay, you can apply everything. Like you can apply all the attributes also you have in your set theory in your Python set. Okay, but one thing is that in your Python set there is no duplicate